We turn our attention now to Capitol Hill, where there's some dysfunction there. Lawmakers not convening today as planned due to the controversy over the so-called anti-weaponization fund we've been discussing. Lawmakers were prepared to take up a $72 billion reconciliation bill that would fund immigration operations. But even those plans are on hold after a tense meeting between Republican senators and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Here's what Senator Tom Tillis had to say about the compensation fund before a meeting and what Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville said afterwards.
Under what circumstances would it ever make sense to provide restitution for people who were either pled guilty or were found guilty in a court of law? I mean, this is just stupid on stilts.
You could call it a curveball right at the end, and nobody could hit it. I mean, it was a fast curveball.
CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe is following this for us from the North Lawn this morning. Ed, good morning. We had mentioned earlier today that when you have Republican senators criticizing a key piece of the Trump administration policy, it's a sign of perhaps fractures and maybe more to come. How is the White House explaining this opposition?
Oh, well, the president just did a little while ago on Truth Social, Errol, suggesting that he's sacrificing to make all this happen here. He said, I gave up a lot of money in allowing the just-announced anti-weaponization fund to go forward. I could have settled my case, including the illegal release of my tax returns and the equally illegal break-in of Mar-a-Lago, for an absolute fortune. Instead, I'm helping others who were so badly abused by an evil, corrupt, and weaponized Biden administration receive at long last justice. President DJT. See, this is part of the problem. A, that he was able to even settle it all is what ticks off some in Congress. And B, that so far, at least, the Justice Department can't tell the Republicans who asked for this meeting yesterday with the acting attorney general, well, who exactly is eligible for the money? Because, for example, you have Enrique Tarrio, one of the leaders of the Proud Boys, who wasn't there on January 6th, but was ultimately prosecuted, charged, and sentenced to 22 months in federal prison, and then later pardoned by the president for seditious conspiracy and other charges, saying that he deserves a few million. You have former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen now saying, well, given the 3 years I spent in prison on Trump's behalf, shouldn't I be eligible, even though he's fallen out of favor of the president? And there's even now journalists or podcast hosts like Jim Acosta suggesting that he should be able to apply for money from the compensation fund because of the prosecution that he faced during the first Trump administration for being such a critic or aggressive questioner of the president. So that's the frustration that many of these lawmakers have is you're setting up this $1.776 billion compensation fund. Who exactly is eligible? How are you determining that? How can we track the money? And how can you be spending that kind of money right now at a time when so many Americans are concerned about their own bottom line?
Well, and Ed, we had Rebecca Roife on, and so she would obviously take issue to that True Social post because a judge was asking, do we even have a suit here? Because you don't have any adversaries in terms of the president's suit against the IRS and how this fund was created. But she also said now Congress controls the purse strings, but there doesn't appear to be political will for there to be a bill that would nullify this fund. Are you starting to see dominoes fall or not yet?
Not yet. I think the fact that they had to have the meeting at all and they don't have any answers is one thing, but, you know, they'll be back at some point in the next few days, and by then the Justice Department may have answers for them. We'll see.
And Ed, last week we were discussing the president's visit to Beijing, to China. Now we're hearing from the Navy's acting secretary that an arms sale to Taiwan has been paused, Taiwan being an issue the U.S. and China were not on the same page about. What is the context as this happens today?
Well, so this is an interesting one. The Navy secretary, acting Navy secretary, says that the $14 billion weapons transfer to Taiwan is on hold because of the war with Iran. So this is a double-edged concern for people. A, that we may not have enough military equipment to deal with multiple crises at a time. And B, that less than a week after the president gets back from China, we're withholding that aid that Congress had approved and that traditionally has been signed off on by presidents and sent along. When we know that a big crux of that conversation the president had with Chinese President Xi Jinping last week was about the future of Taiwan and, in essence, trying to convince the Trump administration to back off and let China deal with Taiwan. So real concern in the Indo-Pacific about this and what it means for the future of U.S.-Taiwan relations, but doubly concerning because we're hitting a point where we know the Pentagon is stretched pretty thin by what they've deployed and need to actually use in Iran. let alone what we're providing to Ukraine and elsewhere, that if another big crisis does develop somewhere in the world, the U.S. military may run out of supplies.
Yeah, it is not a slow news day in Washington. Ed O'Keefe, we
Rarely
appreciate
is.
you being across all of it. Enjoy your weekend when you get there, Ed. Thanks.
Take care.